It's the time that everyone has been waiting for. It's the most important time. We're listing off as we're about what? A month away from the start of fall camps around the state of Virginia in college football. We're about maybe just over a month out. No better time than to rank the top Virginia schools for this upcoming football season. We're going to go 5 through 1, ranking what we think will be the best team. Now, not necessarily, how can I put this? Best teams, yeah, the best teams. Who will have the most success in their respective division? Who will have the best chances to make a college football playoff at the end of the year? Who's going to have the best team at the end of the 2025 season? And starting things off, number 5, the 5th best team in Virginia this upcoming college football season, Liberty.
Why do you say it like that?
Because I know people probably out there have faith in Liberty because they've been really solid these last couple of years in Conference USA. But losing Caden Salter is a pretty massive blow to this Liberty offense. And there's probably people out there, but Jack, they added Ethan Vasco from Coastal Carolina. They have Ryan Berger on their roster. They've got 2 capable former Sun Belt quarterbacks. I hear you, but the fact that you have barely any returning production on the offensive side of the football, that's going to be tough for you to overcome. Phil Steele has you in their power poll at 81. I think that's a little high. I've also heard murmurs through I've heard murmurs through college football world that Liberty may not be that strong this season. And because of that, Liberty's going to be the 5th best team in the state of Virginia this upcoming season. Number 4, and I might be getting a little heat for this one, but ODU. I like Old Dominion a lot. I've been on the Old Dominion bandwagon for probably 2 years now, and it's burned me the last 2 years. But I'm not getting off now. I'm going to double down on this. Look, Ricky Ronnie, the head coach of Old Dominion, he's got 11 starters back. He probably has the best linebacker room in the Sun Belt, headlined by Jason Henderson, who led the nation in tackles in 2023. He missed all of last season with an injury. He returns for his final year of eligibility, and he's expected to be a huge piece of that ODU defense that I think is going to be one of the top units in the Sun Belt. Phil Steele has them in his power poll at around 85. They weren't ranked in his Phil Steele top 40. They're 5th in the Sun Belt in returning experience. Their strength being their returning defense. Majority of their starters come back on the defensive side. And this is a team poised for a bounce back year or a bounce forward year. They really haven't had anything to much bounce back from. Should be bowl eligible. They had 3 close losses last season, and those close losses, a bounce of the football one way or another, could go the other way, and they could easily have those flip to be wins. They showed flashes last year with their young quarterback who's returning, Colton Josephs. He was fantastic last year. I love ODU to be a dark horse team in the Sun Belt, but I think they're going to be one of the better teams in Virginia, better than Liberty at least. Number 3, and this is where things are going to get a little interesting. Number 3, the 3rd best team in the state of Virginia going into 2025, it's UVA. I think UVA, now I think there's a pretty big gap between UVA and ODU though. I think it's 4-5, pretty sizable schism, 3-2-1. UVA had a ton of money come into their football program, an anonymous donation of, what was it, $5 million, something like that. It was a lot of money. And now there's a lot of expectations on this team, which is both a good and bad thing. Like Tony Elliott has a probably the most expectations he's ever had. He's probably has the most talented team he's ever had, which also comes, it's a dual-edged sword, right? You have those expectations now. So if you don't come through, there will probably be more people and louder people calling for your job. They come in, though, with some solid experience. They rank 3rd in the ACC in returning experience. They have the 2nd most experienced offensive line in the ACC. They have 182 starts along that offensive line, which is hugely important. They added experienced offensive linemen. Tyshawn Wyatt comes over from JMU. and it helps anchor for Chandler Morris, the North Texas transfer quarterback. I mean, Chandler Morris is getting a lot of praise, a lot of love in preseason camp as well. They only returned 9 starters from last season, but they added a lot of starters through the transfer portal. They put an emphasis on experienced players, and they got experienced players. It's a make or break year for Tony Elliott, and the kicker to it all, why I think they'll probably have a pretty massive jump from last year this year in terms of win total. They had a top 15 strength of schedule last year. Now they're hovering right around 100th. That's pretty big. They face the easiest schedule in the ACC. They avoid Clemson, Miami, and SMU. UVA poised to be a really solid program this upcoming season. Number 2. It's between 2 schools.
Well, yeah.
It's between 2 schools. And number 2, it's Virginia Tech.
This list isn't biased.
Okay. It's not, though. I will say
you should have let me do the top 3, so that way people don't.
What's your top 3?
I don't know. I just would have said JMU for you, so then people wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, the JMU guy picking JMU." That's not a surprise.
So we'll get to JMU in a second.
I was trying to help you out.
I appreciate that, actually. Virginia Tech's number 2, and this is a team that comes in with very low expectations around them after last season. Brent Pry keeps his job, but he has to get a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. He goes an unconventional route with his defensive coordinator hire. He was like the Cardinals linebackers coach or something. The Arizona Cardinals linebackers coach brings him in from the NFL ranks, and then gets Montgomery for his offensive coordinator, kind of an experienced guy that brings a similar mindset into Blacksburg. They aren't that experienced. They're 7th in the ACC in returning experience, but what they are experienced in is big play defense. So fumble recoveries, sacks that turn into fumbles, like forced fumbles, pick sixes, things of that sort. They lead the country with 99.7% of their big plays on defense returning. So big time players make big time plays in big time moments. And that's what Virginia Tech is returning. Plus the low expectations around them. There isn't a ton of pressure. And they led the nation a year ago with 5 close losses. They were tied or ahead at the 2-minute mark in 4 of their losses last season. Now, you could argue, well, Brent Pry just isn't that great at end of game scenarios, and that's what's impacting Virginia Tech. I'm going to push back the other way. I think just based off of the bounce of a football, those 5 close losses will result in at least 3 more wins this season. Maybe they lose 2 of them and they go 3-2 in those 5, but they will regress back to the mean. So there's huge potential here for Virginia Tech to swing in the positive direction this year. Plus, they bring back a lot of their key players. Like I said, a lot of their big plays on defense are returning. Some solid, good players on the offensive side are returning. Now, they did lose some big-time players. Bashal Tootin, he's gone. Jalen Lane, he's gone. But you bring back your quarterback in Kyron Drones. Virginia Tech is poised to take a pretty massive step forward. I would not be shocked if near the end of the season and around December, you start seeing Virginia Tech near the top of the ACC. I think they have that type of potential here in 2025. And that's my way of saying Virginia Tech is a very good football program, and JMU is going to be better. And I do need to say this, as Alan said, big flashing lights here. I am an alumni of James Madison, so big flashing lights, because you might think there's bias. I just want to get ahead of it. I do want to get ahead of it. But I'm not the only one that thinks JMU is going to be a wagon this year in the Sun Belt. Phil Steele has JMU winning the East. Athlon Sports has JMU winning the East. ESPN SP Plus, a really fun advanced metric, has JMU as the best team among Sun Belt East teams. ESPN's Football Power Index rates JMU as the best Sun Belt East team. I'm just saying, the numbers back me up here. Now, are they going to be better than Virginia Tech? Sure, there might be some debate in that, but I think they will, and I think they are going to be the group of 5 college football playoff representative. They're the 3rd most experienced team in the Sun Belt, 52nd in the nation. They have the 16th most yards returning in the nation, with 68% of them coming back. Now, that is a little bit of a misnomer because Alonzo Barnett tore his ACL in the final game of the regular season last year, and that happened at the very tail end of November. And so we're not sure if Alonzo Barnett will be the starter week 1. I would be highly shocked if Alonzo Barnett is the starter for JMU come week 1 because I think he will still be recovering from a torn ACL. I would be shocked if he does not take a medical redshirt this year, but they still brought in Camden Coleman from Richmond, who was one of the top FCS quarterbacks in the nation, was one of the top quarterbacks in the Coastal, almost said Colonial, in the Coastal Athletic Association. They brought in Matthew Sluka, who had his best years at Holy Cross with JMU head coach Bob Chesney. They are very experienced. They brought in a lot of, big time players through the transfer portal. They brought them up. FCS ranks up, Division II ranks up, but they are a team that is poised to be the Group of 5 representative out of the college for the college football playoff.
What's your Twitter handle again? At Fitz all the way.
FITZ all the way
is a homer sin. No, I'm joking. If
you called me a homer,
no, there's definitely
you're wrong.
There's definitely a lot of optimism for JMU coming into this season. And then, like, again, Coach Chesney had a great season last year, all things considered. You can only expect or anticipate for them to get better. I think one thing I always look for teams that take a jump up in conference and in play is the offensive line. You know, if they get bigger, or even defensive line, right? If the trenches adjust, then typically the program will make that adjustment. And I think Coach Chesney's done a good job in those two areas, and that's where we'll see the most improvement for JMU this year.
Well, you said bigness on the defensive line, right?
Yeah, I need some thickness there.
UVA's got that thickness on their defensive line. Tony Elliott has said this is, just stats. He's not just saying this. Tony Elliott has said this is one of his more talented teams he's had. But it just, in terms of height and weight, this is the largest defensive line that Tony Elliott has coached at UVA.
I root for UVA this year because I have seen Coach Elliott really hustle in the Richmond area to get some kids down there from some of our various high schools. And so I appreciate that at least one person in state realizes there's some talent in this area. And I'm saying that a little tongue in cheek. There's a lot of talent in this area.
There's a lot of
talent. I think on a national level, people recognize that. But for some reason, our schools here, either they don't try hard enough, or they maybe they're disheartened because they're going against the Clemson, Florida, and all these other various schools that come through, USC, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something to be said to continue to at least try to keep your talent in state, because there's a lot of good talent. We got a 5-star kid down in Louisa. And obviously, if Penn State comes knocking, if James Franklin's taking a chopper to see him, it's totally different. But I would love to know how much of a recruiting pitch that Charlottesville or UVA has tried, or Virginia Tech, because we had a 5-star last year, or maybe the year before, right in Salem, and I don't know how strong of a pitch they made.
Yeah,
he went to Georgia.
Is it Georgia? I thought he was at Tennessee, but yeah, one of
the SEC schools.
And we got a 5-star here in our backyard with Darius Gray, the offensive lineman at St. Chris.
And he went to Tech though, right? Or no? Didn't they recruit somebody?
I think they recruited someone from Tech, but Darius Gray, he's got offers. He hasn't announced his decision, but he's got offers from Tennessee, LSU, South Carolina. This is his top 5. He's narrowed it down to his top 5. Those 3, Clemson and Ohio State. So not a single in-state school.
He's a tackle?
He's a guard.
He's a guard? Still, man.
Number 1 recruit in Virginia, number 1 interior offensive lineman, I think, in the country. Right here to St. Chris. But I
was I say all that, but if Ohio State, and I'm a lineman, Ohio State comes knocking, man, for the pedigree.
But you're right. But like, also these guys are in your backyard.
Yeah.
So like, you should have been with him when he was a freshman in high school and been like, hey man, like start that relationship.
It's not like they just popped up.
Yeah. It's not like, oh wait, we have a 5-star here. It's like, you've been hearing about him for years. And it is an interesting thing that there are no Virginia schools in the number one kid in Virginia, no state schools in his top 5, but I can't blame him considering it's top 5.
I don't know if Coach Elliott's listening to our program, but I'm telling you, man, one thing about Virginia, if you're recruiting these kids, you got to go into their houses. You got to get the parents on board, especially mom. You get mom on board.
You could win the ACC by recruiting the 757 and 804 exclusively.
I think you could.
I think you could.
Yeah.
But UVA, they got the big guys down in the trenches. And I think the real key for UVA, where they're going to take a massive jump this year and become bowl eligible, is just the fact that their strength of schedule has dropped so much. I mean, they had a tough schedule last year. It was top 15 in the nation, and now it's hovering around 100. And that should give them a couple of wins just off of principle.
They had the college equivalent of what the Steelers had last year.
To finish out the season.
Yeah, in the beginning of the season, you looking at it like, oh, this isn't bad.
You
get
to 4-1. Yeah, they're going to be bowl eligible.
You get to the second half of the season, and it's like, whoa. Just like I said, the Steelers it was a breeze compared to their last like 6-7 games.
The Steelers went, I think, 0-6 to finish
the
season. UVA, I think, went 1-6 to finish the season.
It was rough. So.
But and then on the same breath, the schedule doesn't get necessarily much easier for Virginia Tech this year, but 5 close losses in 2024, that is poised for regressing to the mean and flipping those into wins. And if they had went 3-2 in those 5 games with 3 wins, 2 losses, it's a completely different story that we're talking about with Virginia Tech. They had a lead or they were tied at the 2-minute mark in 4 of their losses. If they went 4-0 in those games, it is a completely different story going into 2025 for Virginia Tech. Brent Pry's not on the hot seat. I don't know if he loses both coordinators. There's a lot of difference between how those 4 games could have gone and how we would look at Virginia Tech. If they went 4-0 in those games where they were tied or ahead at the 2-minute mark, I think they're the number 1 team in Virginia. But because they didn't, JMU sits atop my first round of Virginia power rankings, but Virginia Tech could easily usurp them here in the coming weeks. But we're about a month out from players reporting to fall camp. First game, August 30th, coming around the corner.